guys, I'm going to talk today about a very important topic. You guys are going to be hopefully very grateful for this. It's very simple. I'm just going to talk about this idea that people don't generally understand unless you're high level in business or finance, and that is this idea about money, that money itself is actually just debt. So money is debt. So why does that matter? I've touched on this a little bit where, we had some conversations about crypto and fiat currencies and all this stuff. I'm not fanatical on the crypto stuff, but the thing about money is that you have to understand if you want more of it, you have to understand what it is, how it works, how it exists, and what it's used for, and how to use it. So if you want to get good at something, you have to understand it. That's the first step. So in this video, I'm just going to give you guys a high level understanding of what is money. I have talked about in other videos that I've done that money is essentially debt. And in the case of if you live in America, what is used as money is the U.S. dollar currency, and currency is a form of money. Now, if you go back into history, money can be anything. Back in the day, they used rocks and seashells and sand dollars and whatever. So, like, way back in history, you're trading stones. There was one island, it was a weird island called Yap, and they had these gigantic stone wheels, right? And that was what they used for money. And they were, basically the size of people. So, um, these giant stone wheels, and they would go to trade with their neighbor, and they would have to bring these giant stone wheels. Some of them were smaller, some of them were bigger, right? But that was their money. Money is just an object that's used for exchange. That's all it is. That's all it does. It is a universal form of exchange. That's what money is for. Now, the modern financial system is something entirely different, and that's what we're going to get into. But you have to understand this basic concept that money equals exchange. Okay? I mean, this is obvious probably to many people, right? This is a very obvious thing. But the first step of intelligent men is to restate the obvious. So I forgot who said that quote, but you can look it up. Money is a form of exchange. Okay? Now, currency is issued by a government and is generally enforced in a way. In some sense, you could say it is licensed to the citizens to use as money. So a currency is issued. Currency is issued by a government. I'm going to do my best here. I'm going to try and mix up the colors here, but it's issued by a government. This is some sort of government building here. Okay, this government says, "Hey, we're gonna issue this currency for use in commerce," right? So this is the other thing that you have to understand: the world of legality, this world of legal fiction, which is government, okay, and commerce, government and commerce. This is all the world of okay. Well, I'm doing my best with that. Hey, government and commerce. This is all in the world of legal fiction. Okay. Why does that matter? Well, the government All right, so I got a 5 minute recording limit on Loom, which doesn't make sense because I paid for the subscription. So, Loom, if somebody's watching, fix that. All right. Uh oh. Okay. So, okay. Now we have this government. Now the government enforces this legal fiction and causes this legal fiction to be real. Okay. Through force, of course. If not, consensus, right? That's a philosophical debate, maybe. I'm not ready to cover that here. So, but anyways, so we have the government, we have the world of commerce. Now, the world of commerce is just where all the people and all the businesses and all the things can exchange all their goods and services. And, this is where transactions happen, and retail and banks and manufacturing, and this is just this world of transactional exchange that exists everywhere you go. Right? This is key to understand, because why does money have importance? Because money has the ability to work in this world of commerce, which is enforced. It's an enforced reality through the government. It's an enforced reality that has consensus, and everybody agrees that it works, and so it works. It's like, now this is what gives this currency value, is that the government says, hey, you can use this currency in our system of commerce, which is run on this substrate of legal, I'll just say legal, to be fiction or not. That's the reality is that a lot of it is based in fiction, but that's just because it's the way that it's set up. Okay. So people are exchanging goods and services. It could be anything: trucks, cars, automobiles, food, groceries, whatever. Okay. All the stuff, anything that you can think about buying, producing, manufacturing, exchanging, houses, etc. This is all commerce. This is all in the world of commerce. Now, the government has issued this currency, which is now an enforced form of money that is used in commerce. Okay, so that's the basic understanding of money versus currency. It's very key to understand that. Um, the other thing that we have to look at is now what's going on here. Like, what does it mean to say that the government is issuing money? Well, the government creates this other branch or outsources to the Fed. This is a whole different discussion. There's some questions here, like who are the shareholders? What interest is being paid? How does it work? There's a lot of mystery here. Okay, there's a lot of mystery here as far as the power. They have a lot of power. So essentially, the Fed says, okay, the Fed distributes their power to the banks, and the banks can issue debt. So I'm doing my best with the drawings here, but the banks, based on the rate, it's a Fed rate, and there's a whole other system that occurs here between the banks and the Fed, but essentially the Fed enables these banks to issue debt notes, mortgages, loans, whatever, right? Securities, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. There's all different types of assets and debt that can be issued by the bank. So when one of these guys comes over here, they go to the bank and says, "Hey, I need to borrow some money to do some commerce." Um, the guy takes out a loan to buy a house. People think that the banks are giving them depositor funds. This is not the case. The banks are issuing debt in their name, right? So Joe here is getting a mortgage. That debt is being issued in his name so that he can use it in this world of commerce. Okay. All right. So, okay. Now here's the point, right? A consumer bank. There's obviously layers to this, right? I'm just giving you guys a high level. There's investment banks, there's commercial banks, there's private banks, there's business banks, there's all different types of banks. I'm just going to talk in retail terms, right? This is like your Bank of America and Chase Bank, where Joe's got a depositor account. He puts all his money in there, and then the bank goes and recycles it into derivative assets and things like that. And that's just something that occurs in this whole cycle. So, okay, so the consumer goes over here, takes out a loan. That's debt that's issued by the bank. Now, what determines what the bank can actually loan out? And that's the Fed, right? So the Fed says, we're going to use this system. In this case, the Fed, it's called the fractional reserve system. So I'm just going to call that the FRS, the fractional reserve system. This says, based on the bank's deposits, they can lend out 10 to 1. They can lend out 10 to 1 on their deposits. So let's say they have $1 million in deposits. The bank can now lend out, they have $1 million in deposits. They can issue $10 million in debt. So most people don't understand that the bank is issuing this debt, right? So they have $1 million in depositor funds. They issue $10 million in debt. So now all these consumers over here are taking out loans. That adds up to $10 million in debt. The Federal Reserve System, the fractional reserve system, is saying, okay, to the banks, go ahead, lend out this money that you don't have. Lend this money that you don't have, right? They're issuing debt, which means that they're creating money out of thin air. Joe here, in this instance of Joe taking the loan out, right? In his case, he's just assuming a debt. Now he has signed this debt into existence. He literally signs his name and issues that debt. Now he is responsible for this debt, this beautiful, wonderful debt. Now, if he knows if he knows better, there's good debt and bad debt. The good debt would be if he's buying an investment property or he's investing in a business, right? Bad debt if he's buying a car or, I don't know, taking out a personal loan or something. Um, but again, the point of understanding here is that the system that's issuing this money, okay, and guys, you can't hate the system, right? Don't hate the player, hate the game, but you can't blame the system because the system is what you have to work with. So, you know, Jim Rohn said, don't curse the soil and the sun and the seed. That's all you've got, right? So work with what you've got. So what we have is this fractional reserve system that's run by the Fed, um, where the government is essentially creating this monetary system in order to enact commerce and enforce their legal fiction over the land. That's a deeper concept, but this is basically what's happening. Okay, so these banks are issuing debt, right? So what does that actually mean now? I don't, what does that mean if we have a system where debt to cash is 10 to 1, right? So we've got 10 times more debt than we have cash in essence, right? That means our money is debt. Debt is money. Hmm. That's a that's another one to kind of chew on for a little bit. But debt is essentially money, and that's why if you guys follow Robert Kiyosaki, he'll say, use debt, treat it wisely like a loaded gun, but he uses it to buy assets. Um, all right, so Now, this is the general overview of what is money. Okay, so there's a lot to unpack here. We'll go into depth on different aspects of this in other videos, but essentially, this is the key understanding, right? To understand what money is, what currency is, and how it works, and then understand, for those of you who want to be wealthy, well, you can't really reach a certain level until you're going to hit a wall. You start making money, you're going to hit a wall, and that wall is going to be this monster right here, the world of legal fiction, the legal world. Okay, this is a whole different monster, because everything that happens in commerce has a legal component. There's a legal component to every transaction, right? This is where disputes come in. This is where essentially laws and regulations and disputes um, determines a lot of what can actually occur here. So it's lagging on me a little bit here, but you get the point. Um, this is a reg for regulation. Okay. Oh, this is horrible. I'm sorry, but you get the point. Um, so yeah, we've got laws and regulations and disputes, and this, all this stuff occurs here. You know, your transactions are regulated. In real estate, what happens is you've got a house, you've got a buyer and a seller. Okay. Oh, I don't understand why this stuff is disappearing like this. Okay, you've got a buyer and a seller. Okay, and you've got a house, right? The title company over here is the one that regulates the transaction, right? They regulate the transaction. They take in all the funds. They do all the title work. They disperse all the funds. You know, and these are regulated by the Department of Financial Institutions, which is, you know, I think that's the same, if I'm not mistaken, as the department that no, there's a Department of Insurance as well. So every state has a Department of Financial Institutions and a Department of Insurance that regulates these transactions. All the big financial type firms have their own sets of rules and laws and regulations and everything like that. But let's just let's look at this. Right, this is a large retail transaction. Right, Joe buys a house from Sally. Right, it's a large transaction. There's agents involved, because the agents are taking their cut, and they know the game. In some states there's attorneys involved. In some states that's involved in purchasing. The whole point of this is that the system of money and finance is tied very heavily to the legal system. It's tied very heavily to government, for all the reasons that I've explained in the earlier in the video. Right, so if you want to have more money, you have to understand what it is, right? And you have to understand the only way that you're going to get more money is by doing something in here. You got to exchange value in the marketplace in some form or fashion. It's got to be time. Talked about this before. It's got to be time. It's got to be value. It's got to be resources. You know, it's got to be some essence of these things. I really thought this pen would work better, but it's doing okay. Give me a break, guys. All right. Time, value, or resources. Okay. So, if you want more money, you've got to exchange more time, value, and resources with more people using the system that's available. Now, sure, you can say, okay, well, there's this alternative system emerging over here with the bitcoins, right? The internet monies. Man, this is just really. I'm so sorry. My okay. You got the bitcoins, right? The internet monies. Now, at some point in time, this is going to be regulated. We're seeing a lot of this, anyways. We're seeing the government step in and say, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, wait. You know, if you want to play in our, if you want to play in this pool in this sandbox, you know, you're going to have to abide by our rules." We're going to see a lot of regulations coming up here. So this is kind of just an aside to what's going on with the Bitcoin things, right? Because if we zoom out and look at like this macrocosm of things here, right? We've got all these other governments at play, right? We've got Canada, we've got Japan, whatever. You've got all these other countries. They all have their own systems, right? They all have their own similar. That's not a UFO. It's a government building. They have their own, systems similar to this one, right? So, and it's just kind of endless. Now they're talking about, oh, there's got to be a world order. This stuff's all got to all come together. Everyone's got to work together. And, this is kind of the focal point because it's almost like the nexus to all these other systems of commerce, right? So this is a very high level. That's the UK. Guys, I don't know why this is messing up like that, but you get the point, right? They've got their own systems, their own governments, their own banks, their own everything, their own central banks. They all exchange. They already have been, interacting, but now the Bitcoin thing is kind of bringing up like, well, what's the next phase of currency? I don't want to go down that rabbit hole here, but I thought it'd be useful to give you guys that perspective. I think this is all I'm going to do for today. I hope this has been valuable. You guys leave a comment what aspect of this you want to go into deeper. There's so much here to talk about, but I hope this is useful, and hope you guys enjoy it and have a great day.